And welcome to the new look of Upon Further Review. I'm your host, Josh Aubrey. It's been a pretty busy summer. We have lots of area high schools action going on, the Georgia Southern Eagles with some things, camps, and Coach Summers making his tours throughout the state as far as drumming up interest in Georgia Southern football. We have plenty to get to. Let's begin with one of the most familiar and popular players to come out of Bullitt County, that being Justin Houston. Justin holds a camp here every year and brings in some of his NFL friends, and we had a chance to catch up with him and them to see how things went this year over at Womack Field.
You know, when we were the little kids, we would love to come out here and do camps like this with, you know, people in the NFL, just people in general. You know, you want to come out here and give as much as you can, especially from guys like Justin and myself. We're from smaller towns, so everybody, you know, love us. Everybody know who we are, so you just got to try to come back and give as much as you can. All the big states like Cali, Texas, and Florida, they always try to brag how many people they got in the NFL. We be like, yo, per capita, we got way more than y'all, you know, so we gotta brag a little bit. You know, it's good to be from Georgia, and you know, all the Georgia people out here, you gotta support them.
This is where it started at for us. You know, I'm from Dublin, so it's kind of the same as well. So every chance I get, I come back and, you know, enjoy it. Without these kids, you know, no telling where we'll be. A lot of those guys was my rivals coming up because I went to Georgia Tech and they went to Georgia, and that's kind of how we got so close. And then you hit a lot, you know, especially back on this end. You know, don't have many down here in Georgia, you know, smaller towns. So, you know, whenever you get a chance to connect with them and be friends with them and get to know each other and you know, do camps together with each other, it's always a good thing.
You know, Justin, he's one of my best friends, and you know, we've been together, you know, working together since we were at Georgia, and it's one of those things, you know, just trying to come back and just get to the community. That's the biggest thing, you know. We were once in these positions, and, you know, high school kids and middle school kids, and we once had a dream, and now we're living that dream, and we want to come out and give back and share whatever knowledge that we have, you know, with the up and coming group.
I do it for the man upstairs. I do it for God, man. It's just coming back to give my time to the kids. Just, I can say one thing to change one kid's life. That means the world to me. I know I'm not gonna be able to change every kid. I'm not gonna be able to help every kid, but I know I'm helping some kids. Just teaching these kids about discipline and having hard work, it takes you a long way. So hopefully these kids learning a lot today, and they can stick with them. And to me, if you ain't got no faith, you ain't got nothing. You can't do nothing without God. You need God in everything, whether it's on the field or off the field. I think He carried me so much. He gave me this God-given talent. So that's one reason why I'm here to give back.
A lot of your guys, either they went to Georgia or they're from Georgia. Do you feel like there's a bond in the NFL from, you know, if you know you're from the same state or you lived in a small town or something like that?
Yeah, I think we just understand where each other come from. So we know we didn't have this opportunity growing up. So just to even come back and give the kids our time, it means a lot to the kids, not only to the kids that help us. So we just wish we had this opportunity. So anytime you can give back, it means a lot.
Plenty of youngsters here, not only for football, but for golf this past summer, as Georgia Southern's golf course was the host for the girls' state championships on the junior side of things in the GSGA, while Forest Heights hosted the boys' side. Well, let's get out and see how things went over this summer.
The course is looking better than it ever has. It's really in great shape. So we have 77 girls playing. It's a record field for the GSGA and for their state championship. This is really the top of the crop here. This is a statewide event. This is the biggest event for junior girls in Georgia. You'll have some future college players here. You have some coaches here watching them as well. So this is really the very, very best of the Georgia girls playing golf over these next 3 days. We certainly want to continue this trend here. We've held some events here with the Georgia PGA as well as now the Georgia State Golf Association. We've had the State Am qualifier here. We've had this is the 3-day event for the girls championship. And we certainly hope to continue this trend so we can have some bigger events here as the years go by.
It's very exciting. We've got the top players in the state of Georgia here playing at Forest Heights, and certainly with Brian Harmon and Russell Henley playing as well as they did at the U.S. Open. You know, some of these kids are going down that same path, and we're just looking to see where their careers can take them. It's obviously a huge economic impact. You know, all these families come in, a lot of them from the Atlanta area, and rent hotels and ask us where to go eat in town, and all the restaurants are doing really well. We're going to have a nice cookout here at Forest Heights for all of them tonight. And it's just big for Statesboro. A lot of people that have never been down to see Georgia Southern having the opportunity to go and view the campus around there. And it's just good to have them all in town and be able to show what we have to offer. The golf course is in fabulous shape. Steve Collins and his maintenance staff have done an unbelievable job with what they have to work with, and the kids have all been very complimentary of the golf course. And certainly it's going to be interesting to see how they test out against the golf course compared to our collegiate tournament that we have. Justin Thomas was another prime example, played here 4 or 5 years ago in the Schenkel, and just set the 63 record down at the U.S. Open. So it's fun. We get to see a lot of really good players come through here, and hopefully we'll see some of these kids out there at the U.S. Open in the future.
Meanwhile, outside on the gridiron, Georgia Southern's Paulson Stadium, the site for quite a few camps. Coach Tyson Summers and his staff were on hand, and here's what he had to say about one of the early camps this summer.
We're really excited to have this many kids on campus today. It gives us a great opportunity to get down here and see our facilities and Paulson Stadium as well. It gives us a great opportunity for an evaluation process. We've been at camps for the last couple of days doing some of the mega camps that the NCAA gives us an opportunity to do now, but it's our first one on campus, and we're excited about our turnout, the amount of players we've got, good players here too. You get players from all kinds of ages and ranges. A lot of the guys that are here, yes, we've been recruiting, we've been having conversations with them. They've done unofficial visits here, and guys we've seen throughout our spring eval period. There are going to be some kids that are walk-up. Some guys are young guys, whether they're going to be incoming sophomores or incoming juniors. So we have a certain number of guys certainly that are going to be here that are trying to get their name out there early.
What is the purpose of these kind of camps?
A couple of things. One is the evaluation process. If you haven't had a chance to see a guy face-to-face, me as a head coach, not allowed to go out on the road recruiting. I like to spend some time with the guy. I like to be able to meet him, shake his hand, spend time with his parents, be able to have a couple conversations with him. So it's a big part for me as far as the evaluation process. The other piece goes in how you get the opportunity to challenge a guy in a drill. How do you like him as far as the position coach working with him on his fundamentals and his effort.
And speaking of Georgia Southern football, we're going to be having someone who's quite familiar with the Eagles. Frank Sulkowski from WJCL in Savannah will be our first guest of this new season coming up in just a moment. But before we go to break, I'd like to remind you, for any legal advice you have in the Statesboro-Bullitt County area, talk to our friend Lovett Bennett Jr., attorney at law. Lovett's office located in downtown Statesboro. Back with more Upon Further Review in just a moment.
Dr. Sergio Dalsenia of Family Internal Medicine reminds you that Kathy Shriver, who specializes in diabetes education and consultations, is now exclusive to Family Internal Medicine. Call for an appointment. Their office located in the Cotton Ridge Plaza on Fair Road.
All right, now joining me, the first guest of the season, Frank Sulkowski, a familiar face to many people, even here in Bullitt County from way back when. Frank, when was it that you were here at Northland and doing headline news and all that? When did you start?
Well, let's see. I graduated from Georgia Southern in 1997. I went away for a year. So 1999 to about 2002, I think I was rolling with you guys there at Northland.
All right, and for those who didn't keep up with Frank, you went from Statesboro to Macon, and then from Macon back to your old stomping grounds in Albany, right?
Yep, that was in Albany, and then I came here back in 2006, early 2006, and here I am.
10 years at WJCL, over 10, I guess.
Over 10 years. That's right. I'm an old timer now.
And you've been obviously covering Georgia Southern. You graduated from Georgia Southern, but you've been working with the radio station for what, about 5-6 years? How long have you been doing that?
I've been helping out with the radio network for about 5 years now, doing the pregame show. And then this year, with basketball season going into baseball season, I got a chance to do some of the play-by-play for Georgia Southern baseball earlier in the year, too, in their season. While Danny Reed and them were tied up with basketball, I stepped in, did some baseball. So that was something new, fun experience. If I get the chance to do it again, I'll be there.
Well, and you've really gone all in with a lot of the area in the Savannah area. We know how much you've done for Georgia Southern, obviously, but Armstrong and Savannah State, and you've really gone out and made yourself and your station a presence among the area high schools as well. That's kind of the work ethic you even had back here, even at Macon, Albany. Anywhere you've gone, it seems like that's been kind of the key for your success, is doing so much local coverage.
Well, Josh, I mean, years ago, I kind of learned, the basics from you, and that was a big thing. There we were covering Bullitt County, and we were very pro, high school sports. The prep scene was where our bread was buttered. Now that I'm in a place like Savannah, the market has gotten bigger, but you still need that same premise of where your bread is buttered, and that's with the high school and the local colleges. So that's what we do here. It's just on a little bit bigger scale. Instead of one county, and 5 or 6 high schools and a college, we have around 10 colleges that we have to be concerned about, and over 70 high schools. But it gets bigger, but the philosophy's still the same, and that's given the student athletes, whether it's elementary, middle school, high school, college, giving them exposure, because that's part of our job is spotlighting it. ESPN isn't going to be there for a Statesboro High Southeast Bullock baseball game, but we're going to make sure that we can get there if all possible. So it's just being that middleman, and if you're going to survive in local television news, you have to do just that. You have to do local. So that's the way we do it. In the sports world is, just try to get to as many possible things as you can, whether it's signings or whether it's games or whether it's, a cycle across Georgia, whatever it may be. If it's happening here in our neck of the woods, we need to get there at all costs, because that story is the biggest story to someone, and that's our job. So we need to be there, and, this is our home as well. So what better way to be part of the community, be part of this neighborhood, than spotlighting the kids and the student athletes and athletes who have gone on to bigger and better things, and tell their story and share their stories.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about Georgia Southern in just a moment. Before we get to that, you mentioned the schools and the area that you're in. Recently, pretty big news, especially for your side of things, maybe not so much for the Georgia Southern or for the people here locally, and that is Armstrong Atlantic being now taken over by Georgia Southern. I know that had to be pretty tough for you, because you really went out and covered quite a bit of Armstrong athletics to kind of see that all of a sudden go. Now, there's been, over the last month or two, a couple of Armstrong people that have come over to Georgia Southern, and most notably the softball coach and their old athletics director. So tell us a little bit about how that was and how that was received down there in Savannah.
Well, I tell you what, the closest thing that we've had to this type situation with that merger between Georgia Southern and Armstrong was several years back, when the Savannah College of Art and Design, they didn't eliminate their athletic department, or they didn't merge with anybody, but they just cut some of their sports. At one point, they cut volleyball, baseball, and basketball. So they dropped those 3 sports. And that was something unusual and may have helped prepare us for this. But that aside, this has been something that I've never had to deal with, where you're taking an entire university and then you're merging with another university in the viewing area. Then you're completely wiping out that athletic department. I mean, when you really think about that, we know what Georgia Southern is on a larger scale. Armstrong a little bit smaller, but you still have those hundreds of student athletes, those coaches, the support staff, that that's a life-changing situation. Now, Fortunately, we've had some of those coaches go on and get other positions at other schools. Like you talked about, we have some folks from Armstrong State now at Georgia Southern University, women's tennis, softball. Like you said, also have the athletic director, Lisa Sweeney, who's now in a deputy athletic director role there at Georgia Southern. Also have guys like Chad Jackson, who was the sports information director at Armstrong State, one of the best in the business. He now comes over to Statesboro to join Georgia Southern, and that's only going to make their sports information department that much better, because this guy was responsible for all the sports, and he was a one-person staff. But it's definitely been something that's been unique to deal with, and I don't think it will really hit home until we get to fall, where you're not going out to an Armstrong State soccer event, or you're not going out to a volleyball match because they no longer exist. So I don't think it's really going to hit, especially us in the media, or even the Armstrong fans and the folks who are former athletes there, until those seasons come rolling around and you just don't have them to go out and cheer or cover or go out and watch those games and matches and everything else. So again, I think this is going to be a situation that we're going to see. It's just not cut and dry. The athletic department is now gone at Armstrong, but I think it's going to have a lingering effect for months to come as we move into the 2017-2018 school year.
Well, you've got Armstrong leaving. You've also recently had kind of a new thing around your area, especially for the summertime. I know for years you had minor league baseball there with the Savannah Sand Gnats, but now you've got the Savannah Bananas. Explain to those people around this area that may not understand what kind of product is out there, but they're playing at Grayson Stadium, correct? And tell us.
They are. They play right there at Grayson Stadium. Of course, that's a city-owned facility. So basically, the Savannah Bananas, they're a team in the Coastal Plain League, and what that is it's a summer wood bat league, very similar to something that everybody knows of when you compare it, the Cape Cod League. You have college players that come in and they're starting to work with the wood bats because that's what they're going to use at the professional level. And for pitchers, it's more summer innings and everything else. It's a summer wood bat league that's predominantly in the states of South Carolina and North Carolina, and Savannah was their first team here in Georgia. And just a couple weeks back, it was announced that Macon will be getting a team as well in the Coastal Plain League. So the cool thing is you see talent from all over the country, and we have had local players play on the squad as well. Last year was the first season for the Savannah Bananas, and in year one, they set the league attendance record. Then they went out there and they won the Coastal Plain League title. So in year one, they set that bar high. This year, they're not having as much success when it comes to wins and losses. They're still winning more than they're losing, and they're very competitive. But the crowds, every game they've played here in Savannah this summer has been a sellout. So they're at 16 straight games that have been sold out. They would actually have 18 sellouts, but 2 were rained out. So those games will be made up, and again, you got sellouts there. Again, it's just something to do, and it's been the hottest ticket in town, and it's fun to watch. You watch these college guys who, they come here usually when they're sophomores or juniors in college, and then you watch them. They go back to their colleges, and you keep a close eye on them. Of course, here at Savannah, we've had some local guys, especially some Georgia Southern Eagles. Had Cal Baker, who played here last year, Matt Anderson, an Eagle catcher, who would have been playing this year if he had had surgery and missed this past year, so he was redshirted. But Matt has come back to be around as well. You also see guys from the University of Georgia. They're on the staff. But then you get a good mix of some of the small college guys, too, who come here and do really well. Last year, we had a pitcher who ended up being the pitcher of the year, and he pitches in the Ivy League. So, we don't get a chance to see that too often, but you do with the Savannah Bananas. So it's good baseball. And let's be honest, minor league baseball and what we have with the Savannah Bananas and the Coastal Plain League, really different. Minor league baseball is all about the money you're spending on those guys. Those guys have contracts. You're trying to get them ready. You're trying to keep them healthy. You're trying to get them to the major league level. You're trying to progress them as much as possible. With the Coastal Plain League, you can have some fun in the stands. It's more fan-friendly. Of course, the guys, yes, you do want to get quality work as a player, but you're not under a contract. I mean, you're free to come and go as you please. You have local families that sponsor different players and let them stay in their homes here. So it's a little bit more laid back, and that's what makes it such a cool experience, at the games where you actually at sometimes the players come into the stands and they hand out roses, and all the different games. Just really good marketing and promotion done, and it's something that you can do when you're not affiliated with a major league team like the Sandats or with the New York Mets. There was about a bottom line. We're shipping you a guy we're paying $1 million for. He better get quality at bats. He better be ready to make the move to Double-A. Here, these guys aren't professional athletes. When they finish up their summer season, they're going to get in their cars and they're going to go back to their colleges and begin fall at their respective colleges. So it's really laid back, cool, and it's kind of symbolic of how summertime in Savannah is anyway. So that's why it's been a good mix and it's worked out so well.
Yeah, it's also nice to give you something to go out and cover, get out there in the 100-degree heat and get Frank and I guess Stephanie, who's just now about to leave you, but you guys have been able to have something to keep you busy. And speaking of keeping you busy, when we come back, we're going to talk to Frank about something that's near and dear to his heart, some Georgia Southern Eagle football.
The Medical Center Pharmacy on Grenade Street is proud to be your Health Mart pharmacy in Statesboro. The Medical Center Pharmacy, locally owned and serving this community for 50 years, is open 364 days a year. The pharmacists at Medical Center know there's nothing more important than your family's well-being. That's why they take the time to know their customers, explain their medications, and answer any questions. The Medical Center Pharmacy, your Health Mart pharmacy. Health Mart, caring for you and about you.
And welcome back. Joining me once again from WJCL Television in Savannah, Frank, the big guy, Sulkowski. Familiar to a lot of you people from his days way back when at Northland Cable, all the way through his 10-plus years over at WJCL. And Frank, we know that you mentioned earlier about the fact that you've been kind of a little bit more involved with Georgia Southern football now that you've kind of taken over the role there in the radio and doing the pregame show and traveling with Georgia Southern as much as you did last year. For you, just as most of the Georgia Southern fans, had to be a little bit disappointing. The Eagles returned so much talent on both sides of the ball, particularly offensively. To see what happened last year had to be frustrating when you look around and you see what kind of talent, and you knew what kind of talent Georgia Southern had.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely not on our radar. We knew there was going to be maybe a little bit of a drop-off, a little bit of a change. Anytime a new coaching staff comes in, there's going to be a slight differential from the year before. But what we saw the year before was one of the best stories, one of the quickest transitions to FBS football. Georgia Southern coming right in, winning the Sun Belt Conference, and then getting to that bowl game. And as we saw, winning that GoDaddy Bowl was such a huge moment for Georgia Southern football. And then to come back down to reality when you have a new staff coming in and going through some changes, and you go 5-7. A little hard to swallow, just like everybody else. I mean, I not only cover Georgia Southern, but I'm a big fan as well. So that was kind of hard to take. And again, I knew there was going to be a little bit of a difference. I thought there may be a little bit of a drop-off with new terminology and new things coming in. But again, what you really feel for are those seniors that were on the squad last year that didn't get to go out maybe the way you were hoping they would. I mean, we did pick up a big win against Troy in the season finale, but you would love to have seen them earn another right to play in a bowl game and maybe go out with all they had been through during the transition. Those type guys that graduated last year stuck it out through the thick and thin and helped Georgia Southern get to where they are now. And you kind of wish they could have had one more game there to play, just one more time. But that wasn't the case in 2016. Now we go into 2017. Expectations are higher because you've now gotten 5-7. Now we know that we can't do that again, and I know there's a sense of urgency around the Georgia Southern football program as we get ready to open camp and move into the new season.
Yeah, you know, the coulda, shoulda, wouldas, it's even maybe more frustrating when you see the staff that they've brought in now. With Bob Bodine, former Georgia Southern coach, who's going to be heading up the O-line. Justin Woods is coming in from California and has got some option and under the center and in the shotgun background as well. And of course, Brian Cook comes over from Georgia Tech, and a lot of people were pretty excited when they heard his name, and a lot of people were hoping to maybe hear his name called couple years ago when Coach Summers was first putting his staff together. I guess the big thing is better late than never. Your thoughts on the Eagle coaching staff and you know, basically what are you expecting from the Eagles this year?
Well, I'll tell you what, the new coaching staff and the new members of the coaching staff were hired so quickly there in the offseason following 2016. I think there's not going to be too much of a gap. They had a lot of time to implement their new systems, the new terminology, get with the returning players, and of course have the entire spring. So I don't think it's going to be as tough as a transition as others may think it is. And again, you're still going to be kind of doing what you did 2 years ago and what, at times you did last year. I mean, that's the whole thing. And I think, a guy like Cook, Coach Cook, he's been around it so long. He's had a chance to hear from Paul Johnson and know what Georgia Southern fans expect and what our offensive identity has been through the years. And I think we're going to get it back to that. I'm very impressed by what I've seen out of Shai Werts. I think this guy could definitely, in a couple years, be spoken of very highly. And again, he's got some big shoes to fill at the quarterback position from over the years. When you're talking about some of the quarterbacks we've had, from Tracy Ham to Greg Hill, J.R. Revere, and others. I don't want to leave anybody out. But I tell you what, he's been working hard. What I do find to be a nice thing for this new coaching staff, and as we go into this year, you're returning two guys at that main running back position. Let's be honest. You got a guy like Wesley Fields. You got L.A. Ramsby. Kind of a thunder and lightning there with those two. We know what both of them can do. They've been part of some big-time wins and big-time performances. You're going to have Miles Campbell, who's going to be in that offense as well. We know what he did as a receiver and what he does as a leader on the team. Going to get a chance to see him in some new different capacities there. And then the offensive line. Last year, let's be honest, if there was a really big question mark and proved to be one of the weaker positions for the Georgia Southern football team in 2016, it was the play of the offensive line. Good thing is you got some of those young guys, a year under their belts experience. You're getting back some guys who missed, and now that offensive line is one of the more veteran groups when you start talking about as a team as a whole. So that's exciting to have some running backs, to have some skill guys, and to have some offensive linemen who already have experience, where you're really only breaking in a quarterback is a big concern there going in offensively. Defensively, linebacking core, we've seen that linebackers emerge every year. It seems like we're sticking linebackers into the NFL, so we've almost become like a linebacker linebacker. Want to see what kind of supporting cast we can have back there for Chris De La Rosa. Of course, he'll return. Defensive line, you have some guys who have some good playing experience there. Defensive backs, definitely going to be the strength of the defensive side of the ball. So many of those young guys saw playing experience and got playing experience last year. That your defensive backfield is going to be your most veteran unit. And a lot of times we talk about the offense and the defense. One of my big concerns is deep snapper and also your place kicker. You lose a guy, Younghoe Koo, who was one of the top 3 kickers in the country, up for the Lou Groza Award, was a finalist for the award. You lose him, that's a big blow. You also had last year, we had 3 senior deep snappers. Those guys are all gone as well. So those are some of the areas I'm more concerned about, is going to be the special teams there at kicking. But I have no doubt that they're going to be able to replace it. You're just not going to have it at the level we were last year with Younghoe Koo back there, taking the kicks. But again, I think offensively, we're not going to have too many, I don't think, headaches. I think this new unit and this new coaching staff is going to blend nicely, and I think we see success sooner rather than later offensively.
All right. Well, Frank, we appreciate your insight, and we're going to be having you come on board with us quite often during the fall and bringing your insight, especially for a lot of those road games that we don't get to see and aren't able to go to. We appreciate the video that you're able to help us with on that regard, but we're going to be able to bring Frank in here from time to time throughout the fall to be able to be our Georgia Southern insider and also give us maybe a little bit of some heads up on some of the teams that our area high school football teams will be playing from the Savannah area and from around that you cover, Frank, that we don't see on a day-to-day basis.
Well, I tell you what, some of that region play, it's going to be interesting to see these teams. Of course, you guys right there in Bullitt County got some changes when it comes to head coaches there. Going to see how that all plays out. And again, playing in some of these regions, I still consider them new regions. They're still new look. They're just a couple years into this region cycle. So looking forward to the 2017 football season. And, it's here now. There's no turning back. Looking forward to what this fall should bring.
All right. Well, thanks again, Frank, for joining us. And Frank, again, will be joining us throughout the year. All right. Stay with us. We'll be back to wrap things up in just a moment.
Place to play. The Clubhouse in Statesboro, where fun is done.
And that'll wrap it up for this show. We'd like to thank our guest, Frank Sulkowski from WJCL Television in Savannah. We'll have plenty of other guests coming up soon. The Georgia Southern Eagles back on the gridiron before you know it. And also area high school football. We'll be getting things underway as soon as school starts on August 1st. And we'll have plenty more shows to bring you. But for now, that'll wrap things up. I'd like to thank Frank Sulkowski once again for joining us. And we hope to see you again soon.